Hi everyone, it's Krystle here, clinical psychologist at Prosper Health Collective. In today's vlog, I'm going to be giving some guidance on how to talk to children about what's currently happening in the news associated with the death of Black Americans and the protests that are now happening all around the world. So I understand that children can be feeling a little bit confused, even anxious, a little bit panicked and worried, curious, definitely curious, perhaps a little bit hopeless. And given the nature of the issue with racism, it can be a difficult subject for us to talk about with children. So hopefully some of the things I talk about today can be helpful for you to have conversations with your child. So the first thing is to create that space that your children can ask questions and share their thoughts and feelings. Those questions that your children ask can then lead the conversations that you have. But some other helpful questions that you can ask your child to understand where they're at with everything and what they understand of the situation is simply asking them, is there anything that you'd like to talk about? If you know that they're watching the news or hearing about it, what does it feel like when you watch the news or when you hear about what's going on? What do you notice in your body? What happens in your body when you're watching the news? What do you think is happening? And what kind of thoughts do you have about the situation? Is anybody else talking about it? So with younger children, it might be helpful to use some feelings cards or a feelings printout to help to encourage the expression of emotions and to help you to label those feelings for the child as well. Even getting out some toys and getting the child to act it out can help as well. So children will be hearing what's going on via the internet, the news, radio, and their peers. And as I mentioned before, it's really important for us to be able to talk with them about what they're hearing. Children, particularly young children, are unable to read between the lines, unable to understand abstract concepts, and they might be hearing some information that perhaps is inaccurate. So some other questions that you can ask your children about that is, what are your thoughts about what is happening? What feelings do you think these people are experiencing? Why do you think they are feeling that way? When you think something is unfair, what do you do? What do you think the police person's job is to do? Do you think all police people behave in that way and think that way? So those are some conversations to better understand where your child is at and to help them to understand what is going on. So unfortunately, there is no easy way or concise or structured way to talk about the complexities of racism. So as we know, it's a social and systemic issue. And as I mentioned before, children aren't going to understand the concepts that go along with the conversation. So you can really focus on that sense of unfairness. So sharing your thoughts about it too, and being mindful of your child's age, maturity level, and intellectual level, it can be helpful to share as well. You know, I'm upset about this too, and let's talk about it. People are really angry that some white people treat Black people really unfairly. Australians are really angry about the treatment of Aboriginals, which has been going on for quite some time. And people come together to share their thoughts and feelings, hoping that they will be heard and we can make some change to make the world a better place. It's unfair what is happening, and a lot of people want change, and we can be part of this too. And particularly if your children have seen the videos, the recent videos, and can be very conflicting for them around their thoughts and beliefs around police people. And so it can be helpful to also mention that police are more often helpful, and they're there to keep us safe and to protect us. And of course, I'm here and will keep you safe. So there will be a blog coming out next week, coming out next week, and in that blog are some video links that talk about how to explain racism to children, the systemic nature of it, the journey of Aboriginal history, and talking about different skin colours and things like that. So have a look out for that, and maybe that can help to support the conversations as well. So your children will be asking lots of questions. They're naturally curious, and so it's okay to not know the answers. It's okay to stumble and fumble a little bit. So if you don't know something, you can simply say, that's a great question. I'm really curious about that too. How can we find out more about that together? So it's helping your child to know that it's okay not to know the answer to everything, but also to problem solve and find out where to find more information to answer a question. It's also important to acknowledge your own feelings, to really normalize that for the child as well, and also what you can do with those emotions. So I'm feeling really angry and frustrated too. I also think it's unfair. Yeah, it's an uncomfortable subject to talk about. It's important that we learn more about why this is happening and what we can do to help create some change as well. Although this is it can be a really uncomfortable subject to talk about, particularly with children, it's also a really important subject to educate your children about. And so racial diversity, children are able to notice different skin colours from a very young age, and research has even found since they're babies. So to help lessen harmful messages about racial diversity, which might influence your children's beliefs as they're growing up, it's really important to normalise that we all have different skin colours, and that's completely okay. And it doesn't make one person better than the other person. So ways that you can do this is simply just by being mindful of the toys and the books that you buy your child. So do they have does it represent racial diversity? Being mindful of your child's social networks and friendships and who's within their group. And if there is racial diversity in there, get the children to talk about where they've come from, and celebrate the differences that they notice. So they'll be noticing that we are all the same and we have lots in common, but there are also some differences, and that's really interesting and quite cool. Also be mindful of your own social networks and how you relate to people with different skin colours, because remember, our children learn and model a lot of things of us and the way that we interact. So those are some ways that you can teach about racial diversity. So I hope that's given you some kind of ways of conversing with your children about the issue. I understand it can be quite uncomfortable, but it's an important conversation to have, and hopefully we can have our children learning more about their actions within the school and within the community and within the wider world to create a more fair world. So as always here at Prosper Health Collective, we're working together to help you to flourish and to thrive. If you feel like you need some extra support, please give us a call. We're more than happy to help. But otherwise, take care, and I'll see you in the next vlog. Bye.